Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, according to reports, HBO is leaning heavily on Miguel Cotto, heavily, to agree to fight Saul Alvarez after his next fight. Right? HBO basically is telling Cotto, if you don't agree to fight Saul Alvarez after your next fight, which we're going to televise, then we don't want your next fight. Right? We're not going to approve this opponent. Now, with all due respect to HBO, and keep in mind, I'm really the view from the bleacher seats in the crowd. Right? I'm really more of a boxing outsider than an insider. But with all due respect to HBO, in my opinion, Miguel Cotto would be crazy to agree to that restriction. For one simple reason. Of all the fighters out there right now, Cotto, the reigning middleweight champion, would be the best opponent from a box office perspective for whoever wins Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Right? Now, I understand there are problems and complications. Right? If Manny Pacquiao does what Gary Russell just did to Johnny Gonzalez, overwhelms Floyd Mayweather, leaves no doubt, wins that fight definitively, then of course decisions will have to be made. Because Pacquiao and Cotto are trained by the same man, Freddie Roach. Right? These guys have sparred together privately. The guys have said they don't want to fight each other. I'm telling you, things have a way of changing in boxing. Right? There's precedent for trainers stepping aside for certain fights. Right? Floyd Sr. stepped aside for Floyd Jr.'s fight against Floyd Sr.'s client at the time, Oscar De La Hoya, who then was trained by Freddie Roach for the fight. Right? There's precedent for guys stepping aside to allow fights to happen. Right? But understand, Cotto has lost to Pacquiao in the past. Cotto has lost to Mayweather in the past. Neither Pacquiao nor Mayweather has ever had a share of the middleweight title. Right? Both of these guys are going to be at their box office peaks after their upcoming fight, which quite frankly is redefining boxing economics. Right? Understand this Mayweather-Pacquiao-Mayweather fight from a box office perspective, likely in real dollars, right? Not inflationary nominal dollars, but in real dollars, is on course right now to be the biggest boxing event financially in history. Right? Cotto has to ask himself, does he want to lock in a contract right now against some opponent other than Pacquiao or Mayweather? Or does he want to stay free so that if the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight ends in a conclusive manner, let's say Mayweather lands a check left hook on Manny Pacquiao, right, a punch I believe is going to be there, right, and takes out Manny Pacquiao, right? Let's say there's no rematch of Mayweather-Pacquiao. There's no cry for a rematch because the ending was definitive. Well, if you're Floyd Mayweather, don't you want to go out in a fight against a high-level opponent, right, to try to annex a title that you've never had? Right? Think about boxing history. Sugar Ray Robinson, before his first retirement, decided he was going to take on then light heavyweight champion Joey Maxim. This is what fighters do. They try to climb that last mountain. Floyd Mayweather is very conscious of his legacy. You know that by the TBE hats, the best ever. There are videos here online from FightHype.com that has one-on-one interviews with Floyd Mayweather, where Mayweather talks about Marvin Hagler, talks about guys who have traveled the road before him. There are interviews here online where Mayweather talks about Larry Holmes. Right? Floyd's not just living in the now, he's living in the history of the sport. Right? So my point is simply this. As much as I believe Amir Khan would give Mayweather all kinds of problems, right? As much as I believe Amir Khan, who has sparred with Manny Pacquiao, would give Pacquiao all kinds of problems. As much as I believe Keith Thurman is a worthy opponent, right, at 147. For Floyd, who has a belt at 147. For Manny, who has a belt at 147. Right? As much as I believe some of these other guys, Erislandy Lara, would be a great opponent for both guys. With Miguel Cotto, you get the name, something you don't get from other middleweight champions. Let's be clear here. Gennady Golovkin, as good as he is, doesn't have the box office pull of Miguel Cotto. Right? Cotto has sold out Madison Square Garden many times. Just look at Golovkin's last fight in Monte Carlo. Count the number of people who were actually at the fight. Right? Only one fighter is going to give you a shot at the middleweight title with a shot at box office glory. Let me say this about Cotto too. Cotto just signed with Rock Nation. Right? If I'm Rock Nation, I'm asking myself, at the end of this year, what opponent could possibly give me more money and more influence in the sport of boxing than the winner of Mayweather versus Pacquiao? Right? I mean, understand the money is huge. Saul Alvarez is, a decent fighter. But if you're Miguel Cotto, aren't you aware of the fact that Mayweather really burst into box office prominence when he beat Oscar De La Hoya? If you're Cotto and you're chomping at the bit already to avenge your losses to Mayweather and to Pacquiao, right? Don't you in your heart believe that if you beat Mayweather, who is only going to have one fight after he fights Manny Pacquiao, right? If you beat Mayweather in his last fight, maybe some of that Mayweather box office magic comes your way. It would certainly be more magic than would come your way after beating Canelo, who Mayweather already beat. Right? Keep in mind, too, Cotto himself is in his 30s. Keep in mind, too, Cotto himself has a deep appreciation of history. Right? Cotto really is also fighting for his legacy. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, which Cotto fight are you going to remember more? Cotto taking on the winner of Pacquiao Mayweather, or Cotto taking on Saul Alvarez, who Mayweather already beat, who won a photo finish fight, if it was a win, over Erislandy Lara? Right? And so my point's simply this. If I'm Cotto, I realize that the economics of boxing has changed. I realize that HBO in this world, where you have so many boxing outlets, right? I realize that HBO, quite frankly, doesn't have that much leverage to be dictating to me who to fight. Now, don't get me wrong. Cotto's going to make millions, whether he fights Saul Alvarez or the winner of Mayweather-Pacquiao. But as you look at the hype on Mayweather-Pacquiao, as you hear about the box office numbers, as you hear about the money they've already received off the live gate, right? People have already bought tickets for the fight. That money sitting in an account. Folks, it's a record-breaking amount of money. As you recall how Miguel Cotto at the end of the 12th round against Mayweather left the ring uncharacteristically, without talking to reporters. He was that disgusted with the scoring. He clearly thought the fight was a closer fight than that. Right? My point is simply, this Miguel Cotto, who in my opinion has already beaten one of the better middleweight champions, Sergio Martinez, has really a rendezvous with destiny if he campaigns for the winner of Pacquiao Mayweather. Let me just point out too, I want you to look at the pay-per-view numbers. For Cotto against Pacquiao and Cotto against Mayweather, you're going to find out that the Cotto-Mayweather fight got well more than 1 million pay-per-view buys. Understand, if Cotto, in Mayweather's farewell fight, fights Mayweather after, let's say, Mayweather beats Pacquiao, right, and fights him for the middleweight championship, a title Mayweather's never had, right? You can imagine the pay-per-view is going to be well north of 2 million, right? The money, especially if it's Mayweather's farewell fight, after Mayweather participates in the biggest boxing event financially in history, right? An event that dwarfs right now Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson. You could just imagine the dollars coming Cotto's way. You could just imagine the influence coming Cotto's way. So if I'm Miguel Cotto, I hang loose, right? I don't allow myself, right? I don't allow myself to be roughed up by a network when I have market value that I can take elsewhere, right? Does HBO know that Showtime is in the boxing business? Is HBO aware of the fact that network TV is clamoring for name fighters like Miguel Cotto in matches? Keep in mind, you don't have to be a member of the PBC to approach a CBS or an NBC, right? Or a True TV and say, hey, I'd like to be involved in your next promotion. Understand, Marvin Hagler had a handshake deal with Bob Arum, just a handshake deal. They did several fights together, right? Because Bob wanted to make money, Marvin wanted to make money. If you're a promoter and you pick up the phone and the person on the other end of the line says, hi, I'm Miguel Cotto, will you promote my next fight for millions of dollars? I'm just here to tell you, many of these promoters are going to say, yes, I will, right? So, to Miguel Cotto, all I can say is just imagine the possibilities. Right? You want to use back channels to find out exactly what Manny and Floyd have planned should they win this fight definitively. Right? Even if there's a secret rematch clause or understand the loser might not want a rematch if the loser is blown out. Right? There might not be a public outcry for a rematch if the loser is blown out. So Cotto's dangling something that Keith Thurman, Amir Khan aren't dangling. And that's a title Floyd hasn't had. Right? That's a title Manny hasn't had. And of course, an argument can be made, Cotto, who in my opinion, if he walks out of the gym today, is a boxing Hall of Famer. Right? An argument can be made in terms of legacy. Cotto adds more to the legacy than beating a Keith Thurman, an Amir Khan, and Erislandy Lara, right? A Saul Alvarez. So just food for thought. That's how I see it. Let me hear how you see it. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. And this isn't a knock on Saul Alvarez. I think Saul Alvarez against Cotto makes millions of dollars. But people need to realize that what they're seeing in the box office numbers right now for Pacquiao Mayweather is unprecedented. Right? The world has gravitated to these two fighters. Fighting them gets you a premium. No one knows that better than Miguel Cotto, who's fought both of them. Right? So really, the biggest man in boxing is going to be the winner of this Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Right? Their first fight after that is going to be box office gold. right? So if I'm Cotto, I don't want to make any commitments right now, right? This Mayweather-Pacquiao fight's just a month away. Understand, too, he's delivering value to HBO by just agreeing to have HBO air his next fight, right? So just food for thought. Let me hear from you. Thanks for stopping by.